What's going on, everybody? I'm Average Joe and welcome to another Average video. In today's Average video, we're going to be taking a look at VATRER's 100 amp hour server rack battery. And they sent two! Alrighty, for those of you in the back, I did not pay for these. VATRER sent out two of the server rack batteries for us to check out, test out, basically do whatever we want to do with. But I always try to have some sort of goal in the video. Okay, so if you're not familiar with my channel, I'm real big into having basically backup power, for grid down situations. I've said it many times and I'll just say it real quick. My whole off-grid journey basically started whenever we bought this house back in 2007. We were in a really bad snowstorm, basically a blizzard. The power went out, temperatures are super cold. Us being brand new homeowners, we were just unprepared as you could be. We do have two fireplaces in this house, but again, being new, we didn't have firewood or anything like that to put in the fireplace to burn and keep warm. Drove a couple miles north into the nearest wooded area to rummage around in the snow and find any sort of wood I could find to bring back, throw it in the fireplace to keep warm. Long story short is, it sucked and I kind of made a vow to myself that I'll never ever lose power again, okay? And that's where my whole off-grid journey started. So keep that in mind for the testing, okay? So the goal for the video is take a look at the battery, go over all the specifications and features and stuff like that. We'll probably open it up to take a look inside and see what we can see. And then the third one's gonna be hooking up the batteries to a big inverter and then powering my house and simulate, a power outage. And that's pretty much the best way that I know how to really test the batteries in kind of like a real world situation. And then after that, typically what I'll do is I'll run around the house real quick and just show you what's being powered, just to give you an idea or an example of an average household load. And then after that, we'll run the coffee pot, microwave, vacuum cleaner, dryer, stove, and then we'll run the air conditioning. We're not going to be able to do all of those at the exact same time, but I would like to get a combination where we can get up to 10,000 watts, which is what basically two of these batteries can output. And then the overall final goal, of course, is to find out if these batteries are any good, whether they would be good for like your main battery, whether you're going off-grid or not, or if they're used for an emergency, or if these are more designed for like an add-on battery. Let's say you already have batteries and you just need to add more battery capacity. Is this a good battery for that? Alrighty, let's get to it. All right, so what we have here is the VATRER 100 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery, and the nominal voltage is 51.2 volts, also known as a 48 volt DC battery. Over here on the left and the right side of the battery, we have our two flip out handles, and I'm pretty sure I saw it on somebody else's review that these should be a standard for every single server rack battery, and I'm gonna agree on that because these are, honestly, these are fan-freaking-tastic. You can pull them out whenever you need them and then push them off to the side whenever you're done. I absolutely 100% agree with those. Anyway, moving on, right up here is going to be your smart battery LCD with a little tiny power button right here. We'll take a look at that in just a second because you need to turn it on with the 125 amp Chint brand circuit breaker right here. Obviously, you're going to get a positive and a negative, and both have two terminals each with M8 bolts inside. And then the final thing, which you may or may not have noticed, is this doesn't have any CAN or RS-45 or 232 communication, or there's no communication between other batteries if you have more batteries in parallel. But what it does have is a Bluetooth app, which we'll go over in a couple of minutes. Moving on to the LCD screen right here, you have to turn on the circuit breaker for it to turn on, so which we will do right now. All right, now we can turn on our LED screen by the push of this button right over here. Boom, LED screen turns on. We're sitting at 100% state of charge. We're in standby mode. That's obviously because we're not doing anything whatsoever. On the top right is going to be your current. That's discharging or charging. Right below that is going to be your volts. So we're sitting at 56.75 volts. Right below that's going to be your average temperature in freedom units. And then right below that's going to be your time to empty based on the current that you're using. And just FYI, this is a touch screen, so you can touch in the middle for page 2. Right up here on the top is going to be your discharge and charge MOSFETs. You can turn those on and off. And as you can see, whenever you do that, you actually go into a lock state, etc., depending on which one you push. Right below that it says 100 amp hours because that's what this battery is. Right over here is how many cycles we've done. I have done 5 cycles, and that was basically to charge up the battery and get all the cells balanced. Right over here is going to be your min and max temperatures in freedom units, and then on page 3 is going to be all of your cell voltages right through here, cell 1 through 16. Your green cell is going to be your highest cell in the group, and blue is going to be the lowest cell in the group. Alrighty, and that's what we have right here. If we rotate it to the right, nothing much on this side except for a sticker, your nominal energy, which is 5,120 watt hours. Gonna have your model number, LM512100, your SKU number, and then there's going to be a QR code right over here for an app download because this has Bluetooth connectivity, and right here is going to be your Bluetooth number that you're looking for in the Bluetooth app. On the back side there's absolutely nothing, and same thing for the left side. And then finally on top you get a pretty cool design with the VATRER logo right down the center. Alright, next is all the accessories that come with it. So you're going to get 2 side panel mounts here because again this is a server rack battery and you can mount this in a server rack. So you get 2 side mounts right here with a bunch of extra screws, which is going to go right here. And hey, look at that, there's actually already screws in here, so that bag of screws is extra. You're going to get 2 battery cables right here, which are 6 AWG, and they're rated for 200 degrees Celsius. These are the super fine flexible cables right here with some crimped connections on both sides. You're going to get a user manual right here, and then their warranty policy card, and that comes with a 10-year warranty, by the way. And then finally, boom, you're going to get not 1, but 2 sheets of stickers right here. All right, so whether you are a camper, a boater, or just a guy with some rockets in the backyard, you've got stickers for everybody. Actually, that's probably what's missing out of most of the other batteries and stuff that I've gotten, is none of them come with a sticker. So I'm actually glad they came with a sticker. Nice. Alrighty, specifications for this battery is, as we said, 51.2 volts is your nominal voltage. It is a 100 amp hour battery. Your charge voltage can be up to 58.4 volts. The weight is going to be 46.5 kilograms or 102.5 pounds. The energy is 5,120 watt hours. Your maximum continuous charging and discharging current is 100 amps, but the recommended charge current is actually 20 amps or 0.2 C. Max load or inverter power again is going to be 5,120 watts. The operating temperature range, we got charge, discharge, storage. We're kind of more interested in the low temp cutoff protection. So for your charge, it's going to be 32 degrees Fahrenheit or right at freezing. And then your low temp cutoff protection for discharging, you know, if you're using it, is going to be -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Your terminals again are M8 and the dimensions are 17.4 by 17.72 by 6.97 inches. All right, next is going to be the Bluetooth application. So of course, to download that app, you can scan the QR code right over there. It'll take you, to wherever you need to go, and you can download it for iOS or Android. I am using an Android. This is an S21. And then this is what it looks like right on here, and you can just hit the Bluetooth on button right there. And then you're gonna hit the very, very bottom in the center over to dashboard, and that's like your home screen or whatever. All right, so first impression, I actually like the way it looks. It's pretty easy to understand. So obviously right in the center, it says 100% state of charge. Right below that, it tells you your capacity remaining. So we actually have 101 amp hours, which we haven't done a capacity test or anything like that on yet. So I'm not sure how it came up with that, unless it came up with it in my 5 cycles that I've done, but I haven't actually brought it all the way down. They were kind of like half to 3/4 cycles. Right below that, you can see our charge MOSFET and discharge MOSFET. That is also on here for page 2. And then our balancing is off right now, and our protection is normal. Again, we're not doing anything whatsoever. We scroll up a little bit. We've got our voltage, our current, our power, our high and low cells. Then our cell differential is 10 millivolts, which is pretty good. Again, I haven't done anything to this. All I've done is charged it up and did those couple of like 3/4 cycles. I didn't do anything crazy to it at all. And then your average voltage of 3.5 between the high and low. Like I said, the 5 cycles, which it shows right there. Right below that's going to be your temperatures, and then at the very, very bottom is all 16 cells and their voltages and stuff right there. And I think that's really all it shows you, but it is, you know, it's pretty easy to look at. I don't see anything in here where you can actually change anything. I can't click on any of these cells. I really can't. I can't click on anything, okay? So we are going to back out of that, close that, and then we are going to connect with the Overkill Solar app since it is a JBD BMS. Boom! I really like the Overkill Solar app because it basically gives you all the information, you know, right there. Anyway, we're going to go over to the settings here and just read some of those and make sure we are good to go up to our standards. Most of this stuff in the capacity configuration I never touch. I usually start messing with stuff that's below that. Down in the balancer configuration for the start voltage, they have it set for 3300. We usually like 3450. The delta to balance is 15 millivolts. That's pretty good. I always change it to as low as I can go, or at least 10, but 15 is just fine. And then the balancer is enabled, so if we needed to balance, it would go ahead and do that. Some of the protections and stuff down here. The main one I look for down here is cell overvoltage, and they have it for 3.75. Typically with lithium iron phosphate batteries, you want it to stop charging at 3.65. Even though I've heard 3.75 is actually fine. We'll probably go ahead and just change that anyway. And then cell undervoltage, they have it for 2.2 volts. Again, we like to see 2.5. It just depends on what cells are in there and by the manufacturer specifications. But again, 2.2 volts is okay, but we're going to change that to 2.5, honestly. Right below that is going to be our charge over current, so we can do 120 amps for 32 seconds. Discharge over current, again, is 120, 32, and then 10. Right below that, level 2 is over current at 500 amps for 40 milliseconds. We actually might be able to run the dryer and the air conditioning at the same time. We might have to try that. That's pretty much all we got down here. So like I said, I am going to change the cell overvoltage to 3.65, and then for our cell undervoltage, 2.5. Is that all I was going to change? Oh yeah, I was going to change the balancing up here to 3, 4, 5. All right, and then we're going to write to the BMS to save that. Boom. And done. There you go. It does come with a VATRER Bluetooth app, and it gives you all the pertinent information. It just doesn't allow you to change anything. I also understand that because from a manufacturer's point of view, you know, they don't want just a random Joe changing settings and not knowing what they're doing and kind of mess it up. So if you're not sure, you know, what you're doing in there, just don't touch anything. Use the VATRER app because it gives you all the pertinent information that you need to know, and you'll be good to go. Alrighty, let's open this up and see what we can see. Got some foam pads under here, just like the other videos that I've seen. Boom! So supposedly these are EVE cells. In order for me to get to those, you know, to find QR codes and stuff like that, we will have to tear this down a little bit more, which I'm not going to do yet because another video that I saw, Lithium Solar, he had a different version of this, maybe Model 1, and I think it was blue. Looked pretty cool also. I think he messed up one of his terminals right here, or studs, so that's why I'm not going to take it apart yet. I want to do all the tests before we take the rest of this apart. But anyway, so far everything looks fan-freaking-tastic. So for me, the things that I look for is all of the little blue marker marks and stuff like that, basically on every piece of hardware. The only ones I don't see it on would be those two right there, you know, stuff like that. And actually these studs didn't have it on there either, but that's okay for those. The main ones are all of our battery connections. Okay, next thing I look for is all the wire management. If it all looks good, and this one does look good, and everything has the little wire loom on it, okay, so everything is nice and neat. and routed, nice and neat. Next thing I would look for is if all of the balance wires are labeled, you know, 1 through 16. These ones are not labeled, but they are nice. They're actually glued, so that's another good positive. Yeah, I don't see any numbers or anything, but that's technically not really a con. It's just another nice thing to see. Next thing I typically look for is the battery cable size. 6 AWG. It's actually this same wire right here. This is the 6 AWG wire. Next thing I'm looking for is how it goes into the circuit breaker, if it'll focus. It looks like there's glue in there, which is kind of nice. Usually don't see that on just batteries in general. I would try to wiggle those to see if they're loose, but the glue is going to be holding it in there, which it is, so that's nice and tight. Okay, grab the light. Hopefully we can zoom in on this. Upside down and it's out of focus, but it says 8 AWG. Next thing I look at is how these are attached, so it's basically a bus bar on each of those, which combine both positives or both negatives together. Here is our JBD BMS. All right, there's all the numbers and all of that kind of stuff that go off of there. That looks good. I'll try to move any sort of connection in here to make sure they're not loose, which I will do on these as well. Everything is nice and tight in here. Somebody else had mentioned in one of their videos that these wires right here don't have fuses on them. I don't see a fuse on it for the screen right here. Technically, they would want to add a fuse. Basically, anywhere you're trying to power another device, you always want, you know, the correct fuse on that power wire. That's basically it. Next thing over is going to be our Bluetooth adapter right there, so that's cool. They got it nice and glued down to the bottom. Right up on this forward wall is going to be one of the temperature sensors, and that was the other thing I forgot to look for out here, which I don't see any on this row over here. I don't see any in the middle. There it is, it's right there. There's our other temperature sensor. Now one thing we would like to see is the temperature sensor on the actual cell or on one of the terminals right here. It's just kind of hanging out on the plastic. I guess that's kind of like a second or third best sitting right there, but we do have a temperature sensor. Next thing is the bus bars, and these do have the little center hump for any sort of cell expansion, etc. So that is good. And another good thing I actually like to see in batteries is I like to know that they're serviceable, because for some reason I get the idea in my head that one day I'm gonna pull these apart, you know, and swap out batteries and stuff like that. But honestly, I'm never gonna do that, because for one, these do come with a 10-year warranty, so I don't think they're gonna ask you to take the battery apart to replace a battery or anything like that. They're just gonna have you send the whole freaking thing in, probably for, you know, an entire replacement. But anyway, I get the idea that, you know, I'm gonna get in there and replace some cells, which I'll never do. But I do like to see that the cells are replaceable. All right, we're gonna do the high and low temperature settings, and we're basically gonna only do it for the charge setting. I'm not gonna hook up an inverter to do the discharge part of it. Hopefully that's gonna work good enough for everybody here. So we're going to be using my charger right over here. This can go up to 60 volts, so we'll just put it up on a little tiny charge. That was actually in there pretty good. Okay, here's our little temperature bulb right here, and we're going to hit it with some cold. Now I understand ice water would be best because you can get it right at the correct temperature, but that's not really what we're worried about right now. We're just making sure it works. There we go. Charge under temperature did go, which is exactly what we wanted to see. Let me get that to go away real quick, and then we'll hit it with the heat gun. That went away, and we're charging again. There we go, charge over temperature done. Now keep in mind there is a delay in there, so it did take a couple of seconds for it to show up. But otherwise, that works as advertised. And I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of put it back in here for right meow until we take it apart fully later on. All right, I'm gonna button this up real quick, and then I'm gonna grab both batteries and bring it back to my main electrical panel, along with a 12,000 watt split phase grow watt inverter. That's actually the inverter I used to use to power my house, and we're gonna use it for this test as well. Today is actually day 2. I didn't have enough time to start the test yesterday, which I'll explain why in just 1 second. I just wanted to top off the batteries real quick. Right over here it says 58 volts. We got 57.98. 57.98 on the app right now. We're connected to the upper battery right now, 57.98, and you can see right here in the center all the cells are basically 3.6 and higher, and our delta is 14 to 15 millivolts, which is fan-freaking-tastic, okay? Just wanted to show you that real quick. Alrighty, we're getting ready to start the simulated grid outage test, and I was gonna go over the two issues that I ran into yesterday, which is why I couldn't start the test until this morning. One of those issues is my problem, and then the second issue would be the battery problem. Issue number one that I ran into is all of my cables that I currently have on hand that would go from the battery over to the inverter are fairly big, and I couldn't fit the battery lug inside the terminal right here because it's basically kind of small right here. So you can't actually fit bigger battery lugs in here. So I did have to make my own with stuff that I had on hand. So what I ended up doing was making two 6 AWG cables right here for the both positive and negative. It actually took me a little bit longer to find all of my cables and connections in order to make the cables. That's why we're doing the test today. And then issue number two is I didn't see any torque values for the terminals in here inside the manual. Not that I would have used them anyway, but my calibrated elbow tightened down this one too tight where it actually started getting loose again, just barely. So once I felt that, I stopped turning, and I actually haven't removed it at all. I just kind of left it there. It's kind of like another test in one. So you have to be real careful when you tighten these down, otherwise you will start loosening them again, which I've actually done on other batteries that have this same style of battery connections right here. So anyway, those are my two issues that I ran into so far. Moving on, this is going to be our test setup. So as you saw, we have both batteries in parallel. I have my positive for the inverter right here and the negative right down here. So they are on opposite corners of the batteries. So both are going to be used equally. Those again wrap around to the 12,000 watt Growatt split phase inverter that we're going to be powering my house with. And I also have the thermal gun right here, so later on whenever we're doing our test we can come back down here, pop off the top and take some temperature readings inside. And I also connected up the Orange Pi, which has solar assist on it, so when we're walking around the house doing our test we can see what kind of load we're pulling on the system. We're starting at 100% state of charge. Battery voltage is 57.68. Let's get this party started. Inverter is on right now at 9:25 a.m. showing 57.7 volts. We're going to be using my 50 amp generator input port right here. So we will plug him in, give him a little twist, turn on the inverter output. The next thing we're going to do is turn off the main breaker from the grid, slide our lockout up, and then go on generator power. All right, here we go. Boom. There we go. Now my entire house is being powered by the two VATRER 100 amp server rack batteries. All right, if we do a quick check on the batteries down here, it looks like we're pulling anywhere from 15 to 16 amps. And at this current draw on my house, looks like we can run for 6 hours and 18 minutes. And I would imagine, of course, this is going to change as the day goes on, because since we just switched over, everything in the entire house is turning on. So the load is kind of high, but again, that's going to vary as the day goes on. So anyway, if we check in on solar assist, we're actually dropping down quite a bit already. We're only doing 740 watts. Actually, on the batteries over here, now we're only doing 11 to 12 amps. So our time to empty just went up almost 2.5, 3 hours. Wow, nice. All right, so what I typically do now is just kind of run around the house real quick to show you exactly what is being powered, just to give you an example pretty much. So I got 3 LED lights on that are right behind me, and then I've got 3 more on in this room right down here. In my little shop and video editing area, I've got an LED light right there, one right there. My entire computer system is on. We have a little filter right there. And then we have 6 LED lights up right there. And then we're going to have all the usual, battery chargers and all that kind of stuff going on right there. Going to have the important beer fridge right here. We got a little tiny mini fridge right here, which has other beverages in it. At the bottom of the stairs, we got 1 LED light on right there. Going up the stairs, there's 3 bulbs in that light right there, 1 bulb right there. In the kitchen, we've got 2 pendant lights right there, and then 6 LEDs across the ceiling, 1 right over there in the corner. We have a battery-powered cat right here. We've got the cat's drinking fountain. We have the stove, our full-size refrigerator right up here, of course. In the dining room, we've got a light up here. I think it has 3 lights in it. Not that it matters because they're LED. Another LED bulb right there. We're gonna have another light by the piano right here and another air filter right there. And then in the dark hallway, we have 2 LED lights on right up there. And then in the TV room, we have 1 LED light on right there. And then these 2 little bins right here is gonna have our cable modem and routers and all that kind of stuff right down here. Inside the garage, we have the garage door opener and then any other sort of battery chargers and stuff out there, okay? So that is a 2,200 square foot home with basically a bunch of lights on. We have 2 full-size refrigerators, a mini fridge, and then, yeah, that's pretty much what we have going on. Right now we're pulling 1,300 watts. Now we're gonna do a bunch of random load tests. First one's gonna be a simulated pot of coffee. I'm just gonna go over the old grounds. That's it. I already had coffee today. We have another battery-powered cat right here. Hey, girlfriend, we're gonna make some simulated coffee, okay? I'm gonna need that spot you're at, okay? All right, we're at the max, 12 cups. Let's get this started. Boom, we jumped up to 2,530 watts. The next thing we will do is another simulation. We're gonna step back in time and use my really, really old microwave. We'll set that for 3 minutes, and we're doing a roughly 3,500 watts. All right, next thing I wanna do is run the vacuum cleaner. Now, of course, we're not gonna be cleaning my house or anything like that. We just wanna see the surge rating. Again, while the coffee pot is running, the microwave running, and you know, everything else that's in the house. All right, here we go. Jumped up to 4,476. All right, I was thinking there was gonna be a bigger surge than that. I guess what I can do next is just turn on more lights and the TV. 1, 2, 3, turn on the TV. Kind of like a little rhyme. Turn on these lights right over here. Got more lights around the corner. I just turned on 16 or 17 more LED lights plus the TV right there. We're only drawing 3,660 watts. Not much. Boom. Coffee pot's done. We drop back down to 1,200 watts. Watered down coffee. What are you doing? What are you doing? Nothing? Okay. All right, next thing I wanted to show is if we try to conserve as much as we can, you know, we don't know when the power is going to come back on. If we turn everything off in the house, you know, for just like a minimum load, so it's going to be our refrigerators. I do have the TV on, a couple LED lights on upstairs, you know, and then there's going to be the little phantom power things that are plugged in. I could probably get this a little bit lower, but I'm just not going to. If we had to conserve and just use power where we needed, right now, currently, on each battery, we're only drawing roughly 9 to 10 amps. And if we look at solar assist, that equals out to roughly 610 watts. And if we could continue at this load, look at the time right up here, it gives us time to empty. It's anywhere from 8.5 to 9 hours. And that's at 88% state of charge. We're not concerned about conserving anymore. We want to do some more testing. So next thing is going to be the air compressor and the 10-inch sliding compound miter saw. I understand that in a real power outage, you probably wouldn't use these, but maybe you would. And we're going to find out. So the air compressor is 14 amps, 2 horsepower or 2.5 horsepower peak. The 10-inch sliding compound miter saw is 15 amps. Here we go. Alrighty, ran that one just fine. Next we'll do the 10-inch sliding compound miter saw. Again, I'm not cutting wood because we're in my basement. It's just for the surge capability. And I don't know if solar assist will pick it up, but we'll try. Okay, yeah, it's not quick enough to pick that up. I was just trying to hit it a bunch of times to see if we could get it to go up, but next will be both at the same time. Here we go. Alrighty, runs those just fine. All right, next test is gonna be the dryer, and this should pull right around 5,000 to 6,000 watts. And once this is running for maybe 5 minutes or so, we'll go back over to the battery, we'll open up the top, and we'll take some temperature readings. And this is gonna be on the highest heat setting. All right, here we go. Boom, no problem. All right, so now we're drawing roughly 6,740 watts, and that is, of course, the dryer and the rest of my house. All right, I'm gonna let this run for a couple of minutes. Time now is 10:16. We'll come back and we'll take a couple temperature readings on the battery. But what I really wanna do right now is see if we can turn on the air conditioning. So I think we're just gonna go ahead and do that. So let me open up my app, drop that down to like 68, go back over here to Solar Assist. Is it gonna do it? So far it's doing it. We're pulling 10.4 thousand watts. Drop back down to 9,000 watts, all right? So the continuous output of those two batteries is 10,000 watts. And it can go over that just a little bit for a short amount of time, and that's kind of what I wanted to find out. All right, so over here on the battery, ooh, look at that. We're doing 107 amps on that one, 104 amps on that one. That is crazy. I wonder how long it'll let us do that. I don't know if it'll let us do that for very long. Because these are 100 amp BMSs, and you can go over that just a little bit, like I said, for a short amount of time, and then it's gonna go into an overload. Should we let it go? I don't know if I should because it's my air conditioning. All right, so I am going to turn off the air conditioning just so I don't mess anything up. There we go, we dropped back down to 80 amps. Okay, so now this has been running for a couple of minutes, we'll go ahead and pop the top and take a temperature reading. Open this up. You're probably not going to be able to see this very well, but I'm going to try to read everything off to you. Battery positive, where the wire is crimped, we are at 82 degrees freedom, 82 as well. I'm just gonna kind of scan around and see what we see. That's not gonna do a very good job on the bus bars or anything like that because they're reflective, but everything in here is around 68 to 70 degrees. If I go over to the BMS area, the negative battery cables are 96, and those are again are right next to the BMS. Taking a look at the circuit breaker where the wires go in, I've got 102 on that side. This side is 115 degrees. That is the side that goes to the terminal right here. 106 was my MAC temperature there. That one's actually cooler at 86, 87 degrees. Outside of the circuit breaker is fine at 76 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so everything in here is doing really, really good. I don't see anything wrong at all. This has been running for roughly 7 to 8 minutes. We're just gonna go ahead and turn it off because it works just fine. Boom. I'm taking a little cat nap. Cool. Next thing we're gonna do is power the stove, even though it'll be real similar to the dryer. The only thing difference with this is this can pull over or real close to 12,000 watts. Now we're not gonna do that, of course, because then it'll shut everything else down, but this is more or less just another example of something that you can run in a power outage. All right, so at this current moment, we're only drawing 1,436 watts. We're gonna start with this big burner right over here. Boom. All right, now we're drawing 4,529 watts. We'll move over to this bigger burner right here. Boom, 7,400 watts. We'll try one of the smaller burners and see where that gets us. Boom, 9,020 watts. Nice, that's pretty close to where we can go. There is a little warming zone right here. I'm gonna turn that one on and see if we can get closer to that 10. Oh, now we're already playing the burner on and off game. Boom, we're up to 8,800. So one of the, no, Cat, you stay over there. Let me try one more burner and see what that does. There's 7,000, 8,000. Oh, here it goes. We're pulling 10,000 watts down here on the bottom. I'm pretty sure everything's gonna shut off. I just don't want it to shut off. Okay, so you can run your burners, no problem. Now, of course, keep in mind, if you do have all of these running, it's gonna drain your battery really, really quick. But if you needed to use one burner only, you know, to boil some water or make a meal, it's not gonna be that much of a problem because it turns on and off once it's up to temperature. Look, right now we're only pulling 1,000 watts. That's because we're in the off time of the burner. Once it turns back on, which I just heard a click, hopefully it turns back on, it's gonna bump up to roughly 4,300 watts. Technically, you could run like that for a little over 2 hours, so just keep that in mind. All right, next, since this is a double oven, we'll go ahead and turn both of those on. All right, so lower oven, we'll just do 350. We get up to 4,000 watts. So at that rate, if the batteries were full charge, you could definitely run over 2 hours and be just fine. So if you have a small power outage, 2-3 hours, and you have something in the oven already cooking, etc., it's gonna be just fine. All right, next will be the other oven. We'll do again 350. Boom, there we go. Now we're up to 7,322 watts. Boom, there you go. Runs the stove, no problem. All right, it is a couple hours later, and the time now is 3:35, and we've been basically running this off-grid test for roughly 6 hours. The first couple hours we were messing around with all the extra loads and whatnot, and then after that I just kind of went about my day as I normally do. Basically, I made lunch. After that, I came downstairs and started editing this video. So anyway, if you want to look at solar assist real quick, we're still pulling 987 watts. That's basically all I really need to show you on here. The rest, I guess, will be right here. All right, so up here on battery 1, we're sitting at 3% state of charge, and battery 2, we're at 5% state of charge. They're both pretty much drawing the exact same current at 13 to 14 amps. You might be asking yourself, why aren't they exactly the same? Well, that's going to be because no two batteries are alike. There's always going to be slight differences and resistances, you know, through each battery, but these are fairly close. So anyway, I did want to go over to page 3 so we could take a look at the cell voltages. So up here on battery 1, our cell 2 is going to be the lowest at 2.961. Battery 2 is going to be cell number 10 at 2.977. So they're real close, honestly. Back on page 1, I forgot to mention, is our time to empty. So battery 1 is roughly 10 to 11 minutes. Battery 2 says roughly 20 minutes. All right, so I'm going to end the off-grid test. I'm going to charge these batteries back up. I'll probably do one capacity test on each one of those so we can get that out of the way. And then I'm going to completely disassemble battery 1 up here so we can take a closer look at the cells inside. As promised, we're going to completely tear this down to a point. Basically, we're going to get it down to a point where we can extract at least one cell so we can scan the QR code. And this is the same battery that we took a look at earlier. Here we go. We got her. This is what our mess looks like when it's taken apart. So it was basically built in 2 8S battery bricks, just like that, which is why I kind of had to take it all apart, because all the cells are connected together with these little plastic holder thingies right here, and they have clips going all the way around it. I mean, I probably could have gotten it out, but I would have struggled inside the case, so it's just easier to take it out. So we could get our little tiny cell right here. We have a sticker on one side, and then we have a QR code on the top, which we'll check just in a second. And here's all the other pieces and bits and stuff that I took apart. So we got all of our bus bars right there, and I tried to keep them in the exact same order that I took them out. We got the BMS right there, and then our front plate right there, and then a whole pile of screws and nuts. Boom, here's our little sticker, HC number 5, and then there's a 09-2-3. Kind of looks like a date, but we have a date below that of 2025-10 and a time. I'm guessing that's maybe when they tested it, and it looks like they got 105.4 amp hours, at least out of this specific battery right here. Nice. All right, so let me get out my phone and we'll scan that QR code and see what we got. And we will scan Let's see, there we go. All right, so these are exactly what they said. They're EVE power cells, 04Q LF100L, 100 amp hour, 320 watt hours. The production date is 9/12/24. The production city is Jingmen, which we've seen on many other cells. And then the number of cells produced, at least at this specific time, was 1,649. Alrighty, nice EVE cells. Boom, got her all put back together, and I only broke the Bluetooth dongle. I don't know if I broke it, but it just doesn't work. So maybe I broke it whenever I removed it. I'm not sure, it just mysteriously quit working. Anyway, I know this video's gone on really long, so we're gonna start wrapping up this video. So we're gonna go over the capacity test real quick, we'll go over the pros and cons, and then we'll be it, I promise, okay? So capacity test first. All right, capacity test was done on each battery separately, of course, and I did a 0.2C rate, or a 20 amp discharge rate. Okay, for battery 1, which is the one we took apart earlier in the video, and a little side note, that was the one that we changed some of the settings inside the BMS. So for that one, we got 101 amp hours, or 5.2 kilowatt hour. So we just barely made it over the advertised 100 amp hours. For battery 2, side note is we didn't change anything in the BMS settings. We only got 100 amp hours, but we also got 5.2 kilowatt hour. So quick little side note for battery 2 at least is I was around when that one ended and the inverter shut off before the battery, so there was a little tiny left in there. Not that it would have been a whole lot. I would imagine we would have gotten up to the 101 amp hour just like battery number 1, but we didn't. So anyway, that's just a little side note. And then for battery 1, the inverter might have also shut down first. I just didn't really pay attention. But either way, we did get the advertised 100 amp hour out of the battery. Do we like to see more? Yes, we do. Alrighty, now we'll go over the pro cons list, and we'll go over the pros first. So first pro is the price, of course. It is $949.99 according to their website right now. This one also comes with free shipping, and it also has a 10-year warranty. And also, if we scroll down just a little bit further, there is a 30-day hassle-free return. So if you're not happy or whatever the reason is, you can return it in the 30 days. That seems kind of nice. Pro number 2 is it comes with a screen with all the pertinent information. So battery percent, state of charge, battery voltage, current, you know, all that kind of fun stuff. And then my personal favorite on page 3 is seeing all the cell voltages inside the battery. Number 3 is it comes with Bluetooth, and it has a pretty decent Bluetooth app. I do like the way that it looks. My only issue with the app is you can't change, you can't change any settings. But I also understand from a manufacturer is they don't want an average Joe going in there and just messing everything up. But it does have a pretty nice app with, again, all the pertinent information. Number 4 on the list is going to be the handles on the front. I do like that they fold in and out, and I'm pretty sure it was Gavin's review video. He was the one that mentioned that it should be like a no-brainer. These should be on every single server rack battery out there. I 100% agree. These handles are really nice to have. Number 5 on the list is I was able to run my dryer and my 4-ton air conditioning with a soft start, of course. But I was able to run both of those at the same time, of course, while running my entire house. Another little add-on to that is we were able to pull over 100 amps from each battery. I remember looking at the little screens when we were back there, and they were reading anywhere from like 104 to 107. And if you remember, whenever we were going over the Bluetooth settings and stuff like that, we were able to go up to, I think it was 120 amps for 30 seconds. So I like that little tiny wiggle room in there, so you're able to, of course, run your entire house and then start and run those really big loads. Number 6 on the list, I'm gonna say doesn't really count, but it was the battery capacity check. We got the advertised 100 amp hours barely. So I don't know if we can count that one. Number 7 on the list is it comes with stickers. I don't know why manufacturers don't send out stickers anymore. I personally like that they sent stickers. Not that I'll ever use them because I never use the stickers anywhere. I just like getting stickers. Who doesn't like having stickers? And number 7 or 8 or whichever one we're on is it has really good cells inside and it looks nice on the outside. Most of the other ones out there are pretty boring. Now on to the cons. And con number one is going to be the battery terminals on the front of these batteries. I absolutely hate them. I'm not sure what's going on with these types of battery terminals, or if it's my elbow isn't calibrated anymore, but I just seem to tighten things up and then start loosening them again. I'm pretty sure I loosened up a couple more whenever I was doing the capacity test. And like I said earlier, I've got another server rack battery with very similar battery terminals on it, and I'm pretty sure I've stripped those ones out as well. I'm just not a fan of these battery terminals. Number two on the list is there's no battery or inverter communications. So since I started using communications, I'm a real big fan of that, because it seems like everything just works better or smoothly whenever you have communications, because everything kind of goes off your battery percent state of charge. It's not going off of just a random voltage, because with lithium iron phosphate batteries, you could be right at 53 volts and you could have all the capacity in the world. But your inverter will know the percent state of charge because it's going off of all the communications and it sees exactly what's going on inside the battery. If you don't have the communications, your inverter just kind of wings it and goes off of voltage. And a little side note to that is, a couple years ago, I never used battery communications. I never got it. I never understood it. I just never used it. But once I got it, I've never gone back. Number three on the list is there's no UL listings or anything like that, so these are technically classified or can only be used in an off-grid system. They can't be connected to a system that's going to be inspected and permitted and all that kind of fun stuff. If you're not worried about any of that kind of stuff, then no problem. Number four on the list kind of goes along with that, as in not being UL listed and stuff like that, is these don't have any of the little tiny fire extinguishers, you know, inside, which I believe are part of the UL certification, stuff like that. I could be wrong, but these ones don't have, you know, little tiny fire extinguishers inside. And number five on the list is I personally like to see slightly bigger battery cables inside the battery, where they go from the battery terminals over to the exterior terminals. I know the positive had a number 6 wire and then the negative had 2 number 8s. I don't know, I just like to see bigger wire. I know 6 I think is rated for like 120 amps continuous. I don't remember what number 8s are, but I do like to see a little bit bigger battery cables in there, because you can run these batteries at 5,000 watts or 100 amps. I like to see just a little bit more wiggle room in there. That's it. Alrighty, and that's pretty much all I have for my pro cons list. Of course, if you guys saw any sort of pros and cons during the video, make sure you put those down in the comment section so basically everybody else can read and learn from those. Alrighty, and now circling all the way back to the beginning of the video, I wanted to find out if these batteries are any good, if they would be good for your main battery, or if they would be better for an add-on battery. You know, like you already have a battery bank right now with or without communications, and you needed to add more battery capacity, because hey, who doesn't like to add more battery capacity? In my personal opinion, and if my opinion matters or counts, I think these batteries would be best suited as an add-on battery. The reason I'm going to say that is because I already have a battery bank with communications, you know, and all of that works fan-freaking-tastic. And just like I said, who doesn't like to add more battery capacity? So that's exactly what I'm going to do with these ones, is add them in parallel so I can have more battery capacity, and then I can be off-grid just that much longer, or be prepared for that next power outage and run even longer. Or if you're the person that just has a system for, you know, emergencies, battery backup, stuff like that, you know, this would be a great add-on battery for that. All right, that's pretty much all I got. When it comes down to it, both of these batteries were able to run my entire house in the grid down simulation for a little over 6 hours. Again, at the beginning, we ran it pretty hard, you know, running the stove and the dryer and air conditioning and all that kind of crazy stuff. But if we were just trying to conserve, you know, running the refrigerators, you know, a couple lights, and then, you know, TV for entertainment type of stuff, I'm pretty sure we could get over 9 hours runtime out of these batteries right here. Alrighty, well that's pretty much all I got. If I have any sort of discounts and you're interested in picking up a couple of these batteries, I will have links down below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure you put those down below. If this video was helpful in any way possible and you want to help me back, the biggest thing you can do is like that smash button on your way out, and I'll see you on the next. Next thing is how it goes into the, if I can focus, there we go. No, I can't even focus. Come on, focus down there. Focus on that down there, not everything else. right. Yeah. Alrighty, round 2 with a microphone this time. Turned on.